Hello and welcome back. Got a nice edition of Tying Tuesday coming at you today. Brady here with you, tying up one of my patterns. This is the Special K. It's a fun little fly. It's evolved off of the Kreelex fly. Meant to ride hook point up like so as a jig streamer option. It's a great point fly. It's good in a tandem streamer rig and can be fished all by its lonesome as well, and will produce fish for you in a lot of different conditions. So we'll go ahead and get this one going. This is sort of the olive coloration. We'll call it the Christmas coloration for the season. How about? So first thing we're gonna do is get the bead set on our hook here. We're using the X Series XS506H. This is an extremely heavy jig style hook from Umpqua. And then we have our Firehole matte bead in olive, and we're matching up a 3/16 to this size 8 today. And the size 8, if I'm not mistaken, is the smallest that this hook is available. And it comes in much larger sizes. It's a great warm water hook, but for these streamers, these jig streamers, it works out great. I do like to pinch the barb when I'm intending to fish these for trout. It's a pretty nice micro barb on these, so very easily done. And if you're catching bass, other warm water species, maybe you're gonna leave that barb in there. Maybe the bass will be able to weather that a little bit better than our trout do. So we're just gonna take the thread, the UTC 140, we're gonna start it right behind the bead, and I'm gonna just lock everything in place. I don't wanna walk back too far. We're just gonna tie everything in pretty much right up front here, or starting out up front rather. And that first material going in is the Kreelex. So MFC Kreelex is an awesome flash material. It's available in a lot of different colors. Some nice olives and pearls. There's a good red. There's some blended colors available, pre-blended colors. So a lot to play with. I'm gonna take a small bundle here. And this is gonna be the underbody of the fly. So because this is intended to ride hook point up, at least as much as the current will allow when fishing it, we're gonna tie the pearl, which is sort of the underbelly of this minnow pattern, right on top here. So I'm gonna measure true to a Kreelex, stick that right out the rear end. You can always trim it down afterwards if you need. And then we're gonna grab that right on top here, keeping the bundle fixated on the top of the hook. We're gonna walk back all the way and sort of create a tail. And we're gonna cover up the body. It doesn't have to be perfect. I am gonna try and cover it all up though as I go back forward now that I've reached the rear. So you're not trapping all that stuff. Easy to catch it as you go around. You can always trim it down to help avoid that, so we could kind of figure out where we're gonna be. But you wanna make sure that you're gonna be snugged up against the bead, so I'm gonna hold off for now. We'll just keep avoiding it as we go. Right up to the front, and I'm gonna sneak this all the way up to that bead, and maybe one extra one just to keep it up in there. Then I'm gonna pull that material rearward and capture it down. So that's why it's kind of crucial to get it up as close as you can. Try not to leave too much of a gap as I pull it back and go back over top of it here. And we'll give it just a few securing wraps, and then we can come in. And we're gonna trim this to be about half the length of that tail on the back side. So we'll measure out, we'll kind of find that position, and we'll trim that out. So that's your starting point. So far, this is all still very true to the original Kreelex. The only thing that's different so far is the jig style. We will be varying it slightly here now. I like to tie in a little bit of extra material as sort of a lateral line. So I'm going to take some red Kreelex, a much smaller bundle. I'm only going to take 3 or 4 of these. I'm going to trim them all to length, and then I'm going to tie them in on either side. And I want that to run really the full length of the body. So I'm going to tie them in all the way through the tail there. We'll do that on the side closest to me. You can secure it. And as long as you have it locked in place, we can pull it over top and use our thread. So I can do this so you can see it from the top. As I go, I like to kind of pull the thread over with it. Helps to keep this side somewhat down where you want it, right on the side. But then as you go, you'll be able to pull this directly rearward as well. So we'll go over top of it there, like so, and pull it back. And then we can trim that to length as well. Save that for the next fly. Securing wraps. Now we're going to do what's the top of the fly, or the bottom of the fly, but is on top right now, our olive coloration. So we got a nice bundle of the olive color here, and we're going to put that on the bottom side. We want to clip it square just like we did the pearl. And sneak that in to be similar to that same length as the pearl, and as you go, I kind of pull it down and through, and that kind of helps me just split that hook point to get some material on either side of the fly there. You can always move it around afterwards as well, but it's good to have a nice starting point here. Then we take our thread, we go up and over it, and again, at this point I want to kind of keep it as close to the bead as we can. I have one more material that we'll add in to avoid leaving too much exposed thread wrap. And we'll do a couple of wraps on that to grab it. Secure down, 3 locking wraps there, and then we're going to pull that material right back over the top. And then the same situation, you want to make sure that you get nice and close up to that bead before we pull rearward. Split that hook. And then we'll capture that back behind on the collar there as well. And we can trim out the length. And I like to extend just a little bit past the pearl, because I feel like that helps to taper it down a little bit. Once it gets all wet and matted down, you have a little bit less material as you kind of go rearward, and you get a little bit of a fine point. This is definitely a low profile fly, all in all. The collar that we're gonna do here in a second is gonna create a little more bulk up front, but by and large, it's intended to be a low profile. This material, when it gets wet, really kind of has a nice ability to lay flat while still sort of pulsating in the water. Contrary to like the bunny leech intruder that we tied not too long ago, where it was a much bulkier, larger profile streamer pattern. So it's good to have multiple options, especially as you head into the colder seasons, kind of past fall and transitioning into winter. Sometimes we'll downsize and fish some smaller flies and see good success on streamers a little bit later into the season. Now that we have all our Kreelex tied in, we're gonna finish it off. And again, I just don't wanna leave all this ugly thread wrap stuff here sitting there. I wanna cover up as much of that exposed thread wrap as we can. So I'm gonna take some Larva lace, and this is the Supreme Dub Grasshopper color. I probably would have named it Christmas if it were me, but a great blended color option, and it goes really nicely with the olive pearl with a little bit of red variation we're doing here. We're gonna create a pretty small dubbing loop. Don't need to go too big here. And we're gonna keep it up close to the bead again. Everything that we're working is really up next to that bead. Go ahead and stack the material. So we're gonna kind of cart it apart, get it to be nice and uniform. similar length throughout. And then I like to spread it out a little bit there. If I can show you better, there we go. Small bundle of it. Position it into our dubbing loop here. And we'll spin that up. And we can lay that down and give ourselves a little bit of a bulkier head, something that'll push a little bit of water when you are stripping it. It'll pulsate and move when you're jigging it. Gives a nice dead drift option as well. Make sure we're getting that all nice and covered. Pulling that material rearward. It's like a big old mess right now. We'll secure it in place and clip out that extra material or the extra thread from our dubbing loop. Lay down some locking wraps there, make sure she's not going to move on us, and then sort of tame everything a little bit. We can come in with our brush and thin it out if we need to. Comb stuff back. And get it ready to fish. We'll finish with a whip finish here. And that's all there is to the Special K. So I've been sort of working on and fishing this fly for a while now. It's been a lot of fun for me to experiment with. It's brought me some great success. I'll fish it in a tandem rig. As I mentioned, I might have it as the front fly in my rig, as if a larger streamer might be chasing it or larger fish might be chasing it. And then I like it on the contrary too, where it's a trailer fly and you throw something big that moves some water, gets some attention, strip it through, and then with this guy following behind, a lot of times those fish will turn and hit this guy. They might get excited, those browns in the fall might get excited for a large, 6-inch streamer and not commit to it, but then they see this and it's an opportunity for a quick and easy meal. They'll turn around and hammer it. So great little fly, great for a Euro rig, fits the bill in a lot of different situations, but definitely one that I recommend spinning up and putting in your fly box. Thanks so much for watching today. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think of this pattern. If you're going to tie it up for yourselves, give us a like. Subscribe to the channel for all the other fly tying recipes. Lots of tying Tuesdays out there these days. And then check out avidmax.com for the full recipe list if you want to spin up some of your own. Thanks and happy holidays.